Once upon a time, it was one cold night in October, and the clocks were striking 9. Ollie crawled down to the floor as soon as his mom left after tucking him in. He immediately breathed a sigh of relief as he found the frog he had caught earlier safe in his drawer. Gently tapping his laps, Ollie invited his dog, Max, to join him in admiring the frog. After being captivated by the green creature for a good 15 minutes, Ollie decided it was time for bed. Soon after, Max joined him, peacefully sleeping at the end of the bed. As the two of them dozed off, the frog seized the chance, hopping out from the jar and disappearing into the night. Morning came, there was no sign of the frog, leaving Ollie puzzled. Confusion was drawn all over his face. He was certain he had sealed the jar the previous night. Ollie then began searching for his previous frog. He checked every corner, under the bed, beneath the stool, and even inside the sweater. Despite Max lending a hand, though its help mostly led to it getting stuck in the jar, the result remained the same. The frog was still nowhere to be found. "Where are you, my dear frog?" Ollie muttered. Realizing that the search in his room bore no fruit, Ollie flung open his window and started shouting, hoping that the frog could hear him. Max attempted to bark in support, but its voice was muffled, its head still trapped inside the jar. As Ollie continued calling out for the frog, Max unexpectedly jumped from the window. Surprised, Ollie swiftly checked on his dog's safety before quickly following him. Upon reaching the ground, Ollie lifted Max, cautioning it not to startle Ollie like that again, to which Max responded with a grin. Clearly relieved it was finally free from the shackles of the jar. Following Max's trail, Ollie found himself in the backyard. Despite the short time he had had the frog as a pet, Ollie continued hollering, holding on to hope that his little companion would return to his arms. Mark was barking too. In the midst of his despair, Ollie spotted a hole not far from where he stood. Ollie then shouted again, "Frog, where are you?" Meanwhile, Max's attention was drawn to a beehive on a nearby tree branch, which it looked at with curiosity. Max, unable to contain its curiosity, began shaking the tree. At the same time, a mole showed up from the hole where Ollie had yelled for the frog. Ollie took a few steps back in surprise. Ollie's gaze shifted to the large tree across from him. He began to observe the tree, discovering larger holes. Ollie then resumed his search, making sure to explore every possible opportunity. Max, in its unintentional enthusiasm, shook the tree to heart, causing the beehive clinging to the branch to fall. It was only a matter of seconds before a swarm of angry bees chased after Max, leaving it with no choice but to flee for its life. Meanwhile, Ollie lost his balance and fell from the tree, startled by the sudden appearance of a large owl from the hole. The owl then flew closer to Ollie. Realizing this, Ollie cautiously stepped back until he bumped into a large rock, raising one hand in a gesture of self-defense. However, the owl did not attack Ollie. Instead, it soared away, perhaps getting a sense that Ollie was no match for it. Ollie let out a relieved sigh once more. After making sure the owl had disappeared from his sight, he climbed onto the large rock and resumed his frog calling, holding onto a tree branch to keep his balance. Mac, who had just appeared, also breathed a sigh of relief, happy to finally be free from the chase of the beast. Little did Ollie know, the tree branch was actually a deer's antlers. Sensing a threat, the deer started moving its antlers, preparing to toss Ollie away. Ollie was terrified. Seeing that Ollie was in danger, Max quickly ran after the deer, leading both itself and its precious owner to the edge of a not-so-high cliff. The deer finally let go of Ollie with a forceful push of its antlers, causing Ollie to roll down the cliff slope. Due to slippery ground, Max also lost his footing and slipped, tumbling down alongside Ollie. Ollie then landed with a splash in a puddle of water below, and Max fell right on top of him a few seconds later, both of them now drenched in the water. Shortly after the fall, Ollie settled himself in the puddle. He then lifted Max above his head, providing reassurance and security to his loyal companion. Ollie's eyes caught something in front of him, a tree trunk. He gestured to Max to remain silent, signaling that he was about to begin inspecting the tree trunk closely. Ollie climbed the trunk to see what was beyond it. Max noticed Ollie's movements and mimicked them in its own attempt to explore. The little boy could not contain his excitement after discovering what lay beyond the trunk. A male and female frog. "Look, Max, it's a frog couple!" he exclaimed joyfully to his furry friend. Not long after, A group of baby frogs approached Ollie, Max, and the lovey-dovey couple. They were six in number. Ollie's smile grew even wider when he found his lost frog among them. Expressing heartfelt gratitude to the frog family, Ollie bid them farewell and began his, or should we say their, journey back home. They lived happily ever after. The end. So, thank you all for listening to my tale. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great weekend.